Hello, Miss Hudson's class. This is part 2 of Bunny Double. We're in trouble. I'm going to draw a pretty butterfly, said Andrea. He probably went crazy because his parents named him Foo-Foo. You're mean, Arlo, Andrea said. Miss Hannah started singing that Bunny Foo-Foo song again, and you never believe who poked his head into the door at that moment. Nobody. It would hurt if you poked your head into a door. I thought we went over that already. But you'll never believe who poked his head into the doorway. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. But you have to read the next chapter, so nanny nanny boo boo on you. Chapter 7. The Easter Bunny is weird. It was Mr. Klutz who poked his head into the doorway. Are you all having a good time? He asked. Yes, shouted all the girls except for Alexia. No, shouted all the boys and Alexia. This looks like fun, said Mr. Klutz. Did you ever dye Easter eggs, Mr. Klutz asked Ryan. Sure I did, he said. I was a boy once, you know. Only once, I asked. I'm a boy all the time. Everybody laughed, even though I didn't say anything funny. Mr. Klutz leaned down so he could get a good look at our colored eggs. That's when I noticed something. Mr. Klutz's head looked like an egg. Hey, Mr. Klutz, I said, can we dye your head? Well, it was like I said a bad word or something. All the kids stopped talking. Mr. Klutz looked at me. Miss Hannah looked at me. Everybody was looking at me. I thought I heard crickets chirping. I'll make a deal with you, AJ, Mr. Klutz told me. I'll let you dye my head if you can recite the 8 times tables. We were learning the 8 times tables at school. I wasn't sure if I remembered the whole thing. 8 times 1 is 8, I said, because 1 8 can only be 8. Any dumbhead knows that. Right, said Mr. Klutz. 8 times 2 is 16, I said, because 8 plus 8 is 16. Yes. 8 times 3 is 24, I said, adding another 8. 8 times 4 is 32, Andrea whispered in my ear. 32, I said. I kept going. Some of them I knew, and some of them I didn't know. When I didn't know an answer, Andrea or Emily whispered it in my ear. Finally, I got to the end. And 8 times 10 is 80, I said. That's right, said Mr. Klutz. Now you may dye my head. We couldn't dip Mr. Klutz's head into a cup because it was too big. Miss Hannah gave us Q-tips so we could dab the dye on Mr. Klutz. We had a great time dyeing his head red, white, blue, and green. When the dye was dry, Andrew drew a butterfly right in the middle. It looked cool. After that, Mr. Klutz left, and he took his dyed head with him. It was cleanup time. While we cleaned up, Miss Hannah turned on a boombox, and the song "Here Comes Peter Cottontail" started playing. Hey, guess who's coming, kids, said Miss Hannah. Santa Claus? Santa comes at Christmas, dumbhead, said Andrea. Oh, snap, said Ryan. I was going to say, so is your face, to Andrea, but you'll never believe, in 1,000,000 years, who walked into the door at that moment. It was a giant Easter bunny. He walked right into the door. Ouch, the Easter bunny yelled. Who put this door here? I can't see through this stupid bunny head. The voice sounded familiar. I knew I'd heard it before. Hey, the Easter Bunny isn't supposed to talk, said Michael. Oh yeah, I forgot, said the Easter Bunny. And he's not supposed to say the word stupid, said Andrea. That's not a nice word. Sorry. A bunch of grown-ups crowded around the door and started taking pictures, like they'd never seen a guy dressed up as an Easter Bunny before. The Easter Bunny was carrying a basket. I got up on my tiptoes to see if there were any peeps in the basket, but the only thing I saw was a bunch of fake green plastic grass. What's up with that stuff? Do you have any peeps? I asked. Sorry, kid, said the Easter Bunny. I'm not allowed to talk. And then he hopped away. I thought the Easter Bunny was supposed to give us candy, said Neil, the nude kid. If I don't get some candy soon, I'm going to pass out, said Michael. They were right. It was Easter, and so far, we didn't get any candy. No chocolate, no marshmallows, no peeps, no nothing. All we did was roll legs around the grass and dye them. You know, I said to the gang, something tells me that guy isn't the real Easter Bunny. What do you mean? Said Ryan. He's probably a lunatic who kidnapped the real Easter Bunny, stole his costume, and tied him to the railroad tracks on the outskirts of town, I said. That stuff happens all the time, you know. Arlo, stop trying to scare Emily, said Andrea. I'm scared, said Emily. I thought Emily was going to start crying and run out of the room like she usually does. But as it turned out, we all went running out of the room. Everybody come outside, Miss Bubbles shouted. It's time for the big Easter egg hunt. Chapter 8, The Golden Egg. While we were inside the whole time, the grown-ups must have been outside hiding Easter eggs. Everybody ran out of the room and gathered on the back porch, around Mayor Hubble and Mrs. Bubbles. Okay, kids, said the mayor. There are hundreds of plastic eggs scattered all over the lawn, and there's a little something special inside each one of them, said Miss Bubbles. Me and the gang all looked at each other and mouthed the word candy. I licked my lips. Finally, we were going to get candy. It was about time. The servant guy came around handing out empty bags to everyone. Oh, one thing we should mention, Miss Bubbles said. There's one special egg. It's a golden egg. Ooh, everybody said, because golden stuff is always cool. What's special about the golden egg? Ryan shouted. You know the Burger King, the Burger Queen next to the mall? I talked to them into sponsoring this year's golden Easter egg. Sponsor? What does that mean? Asked Michael. It means if you open up the golden egg, you'll find some $100 bills inside. They were donated by Burger Queen. Wow, everyone said, which is Mom upside down. How many $100 bills? One of the grown-ups shouted. 10, said Mayor Hubble. 10 $100 bills? I'm glad we studied the 10 times table in school. 10 times 100 is, add a zero, no, add 2 zeros. No, that's not it. $1,000, Andrea shouted. $1,000? That's almost $1 million. Wow, everybody said. Yes, said Miss Bubbles, one of you is going home today with $1,000. Everyone was excited, even the grown-ups. Suddenly, they all stopped drinking coffee and talking about the weather. They were putting their cups down and inching closer to the lawn. There was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we would have all been electrocuted. On your mark, said the mayor. Get set. Go get 'em, go get 'em. Go get those Easter eggs. Miss Bubbles whistled, blew a whistle, and the next thing I knew, there were 1,100,000 people running all over the yard. Out of my way, somebody shouted. Let go. $1,000. Grab the eggs. Hurry up. Everyone was freaking out. It was like they were giving away free candy. Oh, wait a minute. They were giving away free candy. I ran out onto the lawn and spotted a few eggs that were behind a tree. I didn't even take the time to open them to get the treats out before I scooped them up and put them in my bag. I wanted to find more eggs. Those first grades were monsters at the egg roll, but you should have seen the parents at the egg hunt. They were all shoving each other, elbowing each other out of the way, tripping over each other. And trampling over the flowers and bushes. They all had crazy looks in their eyes. I hadn't seen grown-ups act like this since the last time my dad was late for work and he couldn't find his car keys. "I gotta find the golden egg," some guy said as he shoved an old lady out of his way. "Not if I find it first," said the old lady who whacked the guy with her cane. He should have been there. Those grown-ups were hilarious. If you ask me, grown-ups like money as much as kids like candy. Chapter 9. Don't Open That Door. Everyone was running around the lawn like crazy people for about 10 minutes. I got 5 eggs myself. It looked like we had scooped all of them up, but so far nobody had found the golden egg. Grown-ups were still wandering around the lawn like zombies, looking for it. I went over to the porch where the gang was standing. Andrea and Emily came over. "Let's open up our eggs and eat the candy," said Ryan. "But the golden egg is still out there," said Michael. "If we eat our candy now, someone else will find it." "Where could it be?" asked Neil. "We need to think outside the box," said Alexia. I looked around. I didn't see any boxes. "What do boxes have to do with anything?" I said. "I wasn't even inside a box." "How can you think inside a box anyway?" "It would have to be a really big box. And there aren't any boxes around here." "Arlo, chill," Andrea said. "There are hundreds of people out there on the lawn, right?" "Right," we all said. "But none of them can find the golden egg, right?" "Right," we all said. "So the golden egg must be hidden inside the house," Andrea and I said at the same time. We all tiptoed inside Hubble Manor. None of the grown-ups noticed us because they were all looking for the golden egg on the lawn. There must have been a million hundred doors inside Hubble Manor. We started sneaking down a hall like secret agents, hiding behind the curtains and giggling. It was cool. "I bet there are some peeps in here somewhere," Alexia said. "If you were a peep, where would you be?" asked Neil. "In someone's mouth," I said. "Forget about the peeps," said Michael. "After we find the golden egg with $1,000 inside, we can buy all the peeps we want." "Good point." "Shh," Andrea said. "Somebody will hear us." "I'm scared," said Emily. "We're going to get into trouble." "Chillax," I told her. Nobody said we couldn't look inside the house. We walked up and down the hallways. As we passed by one door, I heard a noise. I stopped. The sound was coming from behind the door. I put my hand on the doorknob. "Don't open that door, AJ," warned Ryan. "Why not?" I asked. "Whenever they open a door in a scary movie, there's always a crazy guy hiding behind it with an axe." "That's ridiculous," said Michael. "Believe me, there's no crazy guy hiding behind the door with an axe." "You're right. He might have a chainsaw." "Stop trying to scare Emily," said Andrea. "I'm scared," said Emily. Her hand was still on the doorknob. What if there really was a crazy guy with an axe or chainsaw hiding behind the door? I was faced with the hardest decision of my life. I didn't know what to do. I looked at Alexia. Alexia looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Michael. Michael looked at Neil. Neil looked at Andrea. Andrea looked at Emily. Everyone was looking at each other. I took a deep breath. I turned the doorknob. I pushed open the door, and you never believe, in 1,100,000 years, who was sitting in that room. It was the Easter Bunny, and he had no head. Chapter 10, The Last Peep. Ah, we all screamed. Not only did the Easter Bunny have his bunny head on the floor next to him, but the guy inside the Easter Bunny suit was somebody we all knew. "You're not the Easter Bunny," Michael shouted. "You're Boomer Wiggins." Michael was right. Boomer Wiggins is a famous football player. He came to visit our class last year when our teacher was Miss Daisy. He was cool. "Yeah, so what?" grunted Boomer Wiggins, letting out a burp. "What are you doing dressed up like the Easter Bunny?" I asked. "I retired from football last year," Boomer told us, "but I couldn't find a job anywhere. No one wanted to hire me. I applied to be Santa Claus, but they said I wasn't fat enough. I applied to be the Tooth Fairy, but they said I wasn't skinny enough. So I took this job." Boomer looked sad. He had a big chocolate bunny in his bunny hand. He bit one of the ears off. There was lots of candy boxes scattered on the floor around the chair Boomer Wiggins was sitting in. "So that's why we didn't get any candy. Boomer had it all." "You get another job, Boomer," Andrea told him. "My mom always says that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything." Boomer didn't look convinced. "When I played football, kids used to ask me for my autograph," he muttered as he bit off the bunny's other ear. "They used to send me fan letters. Not anymore. Nobody loves me." "We love you, Boomer," said Andrea. "Yeah, we love you," said Emily. I wasn't about to use the L word, but I went over and gave Boomer a hug, and so did Alexia. We told Boomer that he shouldn't be ashamed to dress up as the Easter Bunny, because the Easter Bunny brings lots of joy to boys and girls. And that didn't seem to cheer him up either. "Leave me alone," Boomer said. "Just let me sit here and stuff my face with junk food." That's when the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. Boomer reached into the pocket of his bunny costume, and you know what he pulled out? A peep. "So that's where all the peeps went," I shouted. "Boomer, you ate all the peeps?" asked Alexia. "I did not. I still have one left." And with that, he popped the peep into his mouth. "No!" we all shouted. Boomer Wiggins had eaten the last peep. Chapter 11. Thinking outside the box. We decided to leave Boomer alone and go back to the party so we could open our plastic eggs and eat the candy inside. But when we got to the lawn, the other kids were gathered around Mr. Klutz and Miss Bubbles. She was holding a big basket, and it was filled with all our eggs. "Hey, those are our eggs," I said. "We found them." We're going to try something different this year," Mr. Klutz said. "I'm going to open the eggs for you." "Well, we get what's inside, right?" Michael shouted. "Of course," said Miss Bubbles. "You kids get the prizes." Mr. Klutz opened an egg. I thought a piece of candy was going to fall out, but it didn't. You know what fell out? A piece of paper. "What? No candy?" Each piece of paper had a question written on it. The first child to answer the question correctly gets a chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny. The chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny? Count me in. I love chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies. I looked at Andrea. She looked at me. We both made mean faces at each other. There was no way little Miss Know-It-All was going to win the chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies. "Okay," said Mr. Klutz as he opened it. "What is 7 times 8? 99, I yelled. "Ha! In your face, Andrea." 56, yelled Andrea. "Right," said Mr. Klutz. "Andrea gets a chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny." "Oh, man," I shouted. No fair. Andrea went up and got her chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny, then stuck her tongue out at me. "Next question. What is the difference between fiction and nonfiction?" Nonfiction has no fiction in it, I shouted. It's like non-fat milk. Nonfiction is real, and fiction is a made-up story, shouted Andrea. Right, said Mr. Klutz. He gave Andrea another chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny. Bummer in the summer. This game was no fun at all. Mr. Klutz opened another egg. What is above the United States, he asked. The sky, I shouted. Canada, shouted Andrea. Mr. Klutz gave Andrea another chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny, even though my answer was just as good as hers. When did Columbus discover America? Asked Mr. Klutz. When he stepped off the boat, I shouted. In 1492, said Andrea. Another chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny for Andrea. This was a dumb game. Where do we get orange juice? From the supermarket, I shouted. From oranges, shouted Andrea. She got another chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny for that lucky guess. She had 5 chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies now. Nobody else had any. It definitely wasn't fair. Okay, you should get this one, AJ. What do you call the man who wears a striped shirt and a whistle at a football game? Bob, I shouted. The referee, shouted Andrea, and she got another chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny. It went on like that for a while. Mr. Klutz gave out all the chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies he had, and most of them went to Andrea. This was the worst thing to happen since TV turn-off week. Not only was Andrea getting all the chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies, but she beat me in a contest too. I was really mad. After it was over, Andrea came up to me. I don't even like chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies, she said. You can have mine, Arlo. Really? I said, taking the bag. Thanks. Ooh, Ryan said. Andrea gave her chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny to AJ. They must be in love. When are you going to get married? Asked Michael. I didn't like the gang teasing me, but at least I got some chocolate-covered marshmallow bunnies, so I didn't feel so bad. You're really smart, Arlo, Andrea whispered in my ear as I was eating the chocolate-covered marshmallow bunny. Your problem is that you think outside the box too much. Why is everyone always talking about boxes? And why is everyone thinking inside and outside of them? Chapter 12, Run for It. It was getting late. The servants started picking up kites, hula hoops, and other stuff off the lawn. The face painters, jugglers, banjo players, and storytellers packed up their stuff to leave. The lawn looked perfect for a football game again. Well, it's been a lovely day, Mayor Hubble announced. Thank you for coming to Hubble Manor. See you all next Easter, said Miss Bubbles. Ta-ta. People started making their way towards the driveway. Wait a minute, one of the parents said. We didn't find the golden egg. Yeah, nobody found the golden egg, said another parent. You said there were 10 $100 bills inside, said the third parent. Did I say that? Asked Mayor Hubble. Ha ha, I was just joking. That's right, Miss Bubble said. The mayor was just joking around. He always says silly things like that. He's such a comedian. It didn't sound like a joke to me, said a parent. I'm not leaving here until I find that egg, said one of the other parents. That's when I saw the most amazing thing in the history of the world. Mayor Hubble took something out of his pocket like he didn't want anyone to notice. He was slipping it to Miss Bubble's hand. But neither of them was looking down, and they dropped the thing on the grass. It was the golden egg. Mayor Hubble was going to keep the $1,000 for himself. What a scam. There it is! The golden egg! The Hubbles have been hiding it the whole time, shouted Andrea. Run for it, Bubbles, Mayor Hubble yelled. Then he picked the golden egg up off the grass and started running. Get them, somebody shouted. Mayor Hubble and Bubble Hubble were running across the lawn to where the helicopter was sitting. The mayor ran fast for an old guy. and Miss Bubbles moved pretty well for a lady wearing high heels. The Bubbles were at the 20-yard line, the 30-yard line. Kids and parents were running after them. Some of the kids were throwing eggs, malted milk balls, jelly beans at them. The Hubbles were at the 40-yard line. They were in midfield. The propellers of the helicopter started spinning again. They stole the golden eggs, somebody shouted. They're escaping. Stop those criminals, shouted somebody. Everybody was chasing Mayor Hubble and Miss Bubbles. They were at the 30-yard line, the 25-yard line. It looked like they were going to make it to the helicopter and get away. But you'll never believe, in 1,100,000 years, who came charging out of nowhere. It was the Easter Bunny. Boomer Wiggins, in his Easter Bunny costume, was dashing across the field at full speed. I never saw a man run so fast, or a bunny. He should have been there. Just before the mayor reached the helicopter, Boomer took a flying leap and tackled him. A bunch of other people tackled Miss Bubbles. Oof, the mayor grunted as he hit the ground. The golden egg slipped out of his hand. Fumble, we all shouted. A bunch of us kids pounced on the egg. It cracked open, and the $100 bills went flying everywhere. The grown-ups were crawling all over on their hands and knees to get them. Somebody call the police, yelled Boomer Wiggins, who was sitting on top of Mayor Hubble. I'm innocent, I tell you, Mayor Hubble shouted. I was going to give you the golden eggs, said Bubble. I really was. Tell it to the cops, said Boomer. Hey, boys, we need something to tie these two creeps. Can I use your ties? Sure, we all said, ripping those dumb ties off our necks. Boomer used our ties to tie Mayor Hubble and Bubble Hubble's arms behind their back. A minute later, a police car arrived with sirens blasting. Boomer told the police what happened. Good work, Boomer, one of the policemen said. Have you ever thought about joining the police force? Come with me, Mayor, said the other one. You and your wife are going to be in jail for a long time. But, we all giggled because but sounds just like but, even though it only has one T. Grown-ups always get mad when you say but. Nobody knows why. The policeman shoved Mayor Hubble and Bubble Hubble into the back of the police car. Nanny, nanny, boo-boo on them. Hooray for Boomer Wiggins, I shouted. He's the best Easter Bunny ever. He's our hero. Can I have your autograph? Asked Neil. Hip, hip, hooray, said Ryan. Hip, hip, hooray. After it was all over, we had a fancy dinner with ham, mac and cheese, poached eggs, and hot cross buns. Yum. It was almost as good as candy. Maybe Mayor Hubble will stay in jail this time. Maybe I'll start wearing a tie in case anybody needs to be tied up. Maybe Boomer Wiggins will stop eating junk food and become a policeman. Maybe next Easter we'll get some Peeps and some real Chinese food instead of an egg roll. Maybe grown-ups will stop drinking coffee and stand behind podiums and talking about the weather all the time. Maybe Mr. Klutz will be able to get the dye off his head. Many people will stop walking into doors and climbing in and out of boxes all the time. Maybe Mayor Hubble will go to a doctor and try to solve his bathroom problem. Maybe they'll start making tuxedos for penguins. Maybe little bunny Foo-Foo will stop hurting poor defenseless field mice who are just minding their own business. Maybe I'll talk Ryan into eating a sugar-coated dirt clump, but it won't be easy. The end. I hope you liked that. I will see you on Wednesday.